The Porsche Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain continues apace as for rounds 3 and 4 we head to a virtual Snetterton in Norfolk, and after the drama at Silverstone on the national circuit 2 weeks ago, we are in for two really dramatic races here, not only in terms of the fact that it's a long lap and there's a lot in the Snetterton 300 layout that promotes overtaking, but also because we know that Sebastian Job comes here as championship leader and there's a whole gamut of drivers oh so keen to try to stop that championship domination. Of course, he won it last year. He's won the virtual Super Cup championship as well. He starts as the favourite again at Snetterton, but that's not to suggest he's going to have it all his own way. David Addison and Paul Smith are trackside, and once again, Paul, we're looking forward to two really good races, not just outright, but as we saw at Silverstone, the AM category looks really competitive this year as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. I think both in Pro and in AM, we're going to have some really good championship fights going on this way, with the changes to the format of the Pros having that top 8 inverted grid as well. That's really added to it. And Snetterton, you're quite right. We've gone from Silverstone National, where the laps came thick and fast. Here, it's going to be just less opportunities out there throughout this circuit.
Now, the infield at Snetterton rather divides opinion, but it does mean that the corners go left and right, and if you're in the right place, the road can very well come to you. Before all of that, though, for racing purposes, we've got qualifying, and that is getting underway any moment. After that 10-minute period, the first 25-minute race gets underway. We then have the 3-minute warm-up, and then we head into race 2. And as Paul has already touched on that, it's a semi-reverse grid. This year it's the top 8 that we reverse, not just the top 6. You get 2 points for pole position, so there's something to aim for within qualifying. And for the pro drivers, the points weighted in a greater number for race 1. If you like, it's the natural race coming from a natural qualifying session style grid, not the reverse grid. So it's 12 for a win in pro in race 1, and it's 10 points for a win in pro in race 2, and it's 10 in each race within the AM class as well. Now, as far as the championship is concerned, we've been to Silverstone. Snetterton is our venue today. Next up is Thruxton, and that's going to be really interesting on the 9th of Feb. After that, Alton Park. Then you get your bucket and spade, and you go to the Dutch seaside circuit of Zandvoort before going to Croft, to Donington, and we finish on Easter Sunday at Brands Hatch. And we've had 2 races, therefore, which means we come here with Sebastian Job 2 points up in pro ahead of Luke McEwen, and then Gareth Higgins, he's 1 up on jointly Will Chadwick and Leo Gariboli, with David Williams rounding out the top 6, with Matt Caruana, Crofton Woodhatch, Alex Davidson and Luke Pennington, last year's AM champion, rounding out the top 10 in pro. In the AM class, that was very well fought at the opening races at Silverstone, with Christian Charuta being the man in charge. He had a class win, so did Aidan Walshingham. He won race 1, and those two already well clear of Tom Stevens, with the returning Scott Mopes, Daniel Cofield, and then Guy Edwards rounding out the top 6. So, all of that sets the scene for qualifying that comes up. First of all, drivers getting themselves ready, including Aidan Walshingham, who, Paul, was really impressive, was he not, at Silverstone?
Yeah, what a way to jump into the AM Championship, and yeah, he didn't get pole position. That's the only reason why Christian Charuta is at the front of the AM Championship, is that those 2 points for pole position. But Walshingham took it to Christian in that opening race and was able to get one over him. And again, he's set up there. He's got a little air conditioner next to him as well to keep him cool, because I will tell you, a lot of people think that, oh well, these people just sat at the computers, just pretend driving. It's a really physical thing, is sim racing, especially with the high-end direct drive wheels that can have up to 25, nearly 30 Newton meters of torque in the wheel. So you've really got to work hard.
Working hard there is Isaac Price, trying to get the warmth into the tyres, to get the pressures up as well. Everyone with the same base car, 4-litre Porsche 911 GT3 Cup. Isaac Price making a return to this championship. He was 5th back in 2021. Now, 10-minute qualifying session. You made the point in terms of racing, Paul, but it's even more pronounced, isn't it, for qualifying? The point being, you don't get many laps in here.
No, you don't at all. I mean, we're talking about close to a 1 minute 50 lap around this track here in the dry conditions. And if you make one mistake, this track will punish you because it's got the feel of an old school track. There's no massive car parks that you can just, run off into if you run wide a bit. You touch that grass, you invalidate your lap because the sim gives you an off-track penalty, so you don't get that lap counting. So you've really got to be careful. There are some places like there where there's a little bit of grass creeps, but the drivers will use every inch that they possibly can get away with. Although I don't think Mr. Palmer would be too happy messing up his grass if you're doing that too much.
No, he was one of the original champions of track limits to stop damage to the circuits, to try and keep people off that grass. You're quite right. You're riding on board with Pete Berryman, who only got a 9th and a 10th at Silverstone, which was a little bit of a surprise, really, because we know that Pete Berryman is good. He was a winner last year, but we've really yet to see what a proper flying lap is going to be like out of this session, because by the time you've done an out lap and then the first flying lap, which is what the drivers are on now, you're going to be at roughly halfway through that 10-minute part of the session.
Yeah, and like I say, you make one mistake on your first lap, you're then on high pressure. These tyres, they'll be good for a good couple of really hard laps to really push those tyres, but then they'll start overheating towards the end of qualifying here. So you might see some do a lap, then just back off, condition the tyres again, and then go again for the end.
Right, well, Pete Berryman may very well offer up the target time here because he's heading up towards the timing line, and he does a 1:48.6, which is third fastest. Luke McEwen, in fact, on a 48.559 is the fastest from Sebastian Jobe, and then Pete Berryman from Will Chandwick, Leo Garibaldi, and Matt Emery, who missed Silverstone. It's good to have him back. He rounds out the top 6, and as I say, we're very nearly at the halfway point. Traffic management, part of all of this as well. You do not want people ahead of you, and you certainly don't want to get caught up in traffic around the tight hairpin at turn 2. Was Montreal, now Wilson.
Yeah, there also Agostini as well. That's another one that you don't want to get caught up behind somebody. You can see people just trying to find themselves space out there. That they're all in this qualifying together. It's not like in some other iRacing series where you do the qualifying and you're all alone on track. It is everybody out there at the same time, all on the same setup, which means that they've all got the same fuel. They're all trying to burn that off as well to just try and get some sort of advantage over the others.
If you're doing a qualifying session in the real world and trying to dodge traffic, you've got a visual impression of where other cars are. You can see them leaving the pit lane. But when you're doing it for sim racing, where if you're like joining a server, it must be very difficult to know how many cars have already gone, how many cars are behind, where they are in relation to you, surely.
And this is where some things like the in-game system has a little timing relative box that will show you where you are in relative to those around you. So
right.
3 drivers in front, 3 drivers behind. You can alter it to be more behind or more in front. There are third-party apps as well that you can have on a second screen where you can see a track map. I'm using one of those myself on this broadcast, so you can see exactly where people are out on track. Gives you a rough gauge as being able to see, right, there's a big clump of traffic here, but there's a space further back. Leo Garibaldi, for example, he's just backed right off through Coram. He's going to attack this lap.
Yeah, let that traffic go, but he's really only got one more roll of the dice because he's into the final 4 minutes. Here he comes. The road is probably clear enough for him on the lap that he starts now. And as Paul made the point at Silverstone, if you were with us for the first 2 races, the first qualifying session, when the clock hits 0, that's it. Doesn't matter where you are on the lap, qualifying's done. You don't finish that lap, even if you're only millimetres away. When the 10 minutes are up, they're up. That's your last chance.
Yeah, so target time for people starting their last lap at the very latest would be about 1 minute 50, 1 minute 49 on that clock in the top left-hand corner of your screen. That's what you're going to be looking for people coming across the line. But to be honest, I'm looking at my track map that I can see. Pretty much everybody is all sharing the same section of track, all this infield.
Right. And then they'll moan about traffic at the end of it. So right now, we have Aidan Walshingham as the fastest within AM. and Christian Charuta, former real-world Caterham racer, second. They were the Star 2 drivers at Silverstone. They're doing it again here. And Leo Gariboli now accelerates onto what used to be Revit Straight, now Bentley Straight. Speed building all the time here. He had a 7th in the opening race and a 2nd in the reverse grid race at Silverstone.
Yeah, he did it. He really showed what he can do defensively last week at Silverstone. I say last week, a couple of weeks ago at Silverstone,
yeah.
And showed that he can hang it out there with them and push along with everybody else. Ran a little bit wide through bomb hole there. Hopefully it doesn't compromise in him. I think he's actually backing off a little bit. It's a really tricky corner, as Coram, to get right, because you're braking all the way around there into that final hairpin.
The other problem on that lap was you could see him closing on the traffic ahead a little bit as well, couldn't you? So now Leo Gariboli goes through, and the lap that he does, still 8th fastest. That was a 49.7. His best was a 48.9. You get the feeling that there's more to come.
Oh.
Whoops, somebody off in the background. Big news there all over the field on the outside of Riches. So Leo Gariboli comes safely out of the Wilson hairpin. But is he going to get to the timing line within 1 minute and 37 seconds? He should just about, but this is the last roll of the dice. Frustratingly, he's catching cars ahead.
So Eric Grove and also car 57 Oliver Etheridge, they cannot finish the lap that they've just started now, so they are done for qualifying. I think everybody else in this group, in this gaggle, can finish this lap here. Oh, Berryman way wide on the exit there of Williams, and yeah, he realises he's made the mistake, he's pulling over.
Yeah, right, so that's going to drop Pete Berryman. Well, it'll keep him second effectively on the grid. Now, Sebastian Job is only 5th. I'll say it again just for effect. Sebastian Job is only 5th. We don't often talk about him being that far down, but on the rare occasions we do, he normally pulls something right out of the bag at the very end. So do not rule out another mega last lap from number 1, Sebastian Job. As I say, 5th quickest at the moment. Here he is.
Yeah, and in that resplendent, in that brand new Oracle Red Bull Sim Race Esports livery. I will get that team name eventually right. Do you know what? I got told off by them once for getting the name wrong, and right there on cue, Sebastian Job to the top of the standings.
And he's done that by 65 thousandths of a second. Leo Gariboli is not done yet. Gets a bit of a tow coming over the timing line, breaks the beam, and for Leo Gariboli, 7th, so 148.796. It was an improvement, but not a mega improvement. Actually, a bit of a hat tip to Crofton Woodhatch, up to pro this year. He's 6th fastest. I seem to remember Crofton went really well here last year, and that's it. Qualifying done. Sebastian Job gets the 2 points for pole position, and it is going to be Luke McEwen starting with him at the front of the grid. 3rd is William Chadwick, and starting 4th, Pete Berryman. So he lost out, didn't he, after that mistake? Lost 2 places as others improved at the end. 5th on the grid is going to be 31, David Williams, and for 6th, the aforementioned Crofton Woodhatch. Lining up 7th, Jacob Tofts, ahead of Leo Gariboli, then Matt Emery and last year's AMP champion Luke Pennington. Charles Rainford, regular in the Carrera Cup GB Real World Championship, he is 11th, and Gareth Higgins rounds out the top 12. 13th is where you find Matt Caruana, ahead of the AMP pole position driver Aidan Walshingham. Then it is Isaac Price ahead of Scott Mokes. Guy Edwards comes next, with Eric Grove lining up alongside him. Christian Charuta has Conan Weirn for company. Next up, Dylan Platt, and alongside him is Daniel Cofield. Then we've got Tom Stevens and Jakub Urbanchik, who is going to line up 24th on the grid. 25th, it is Tim Darracott. Alongside him is Adam Cox. Then Sam Fitzpatrick and Oliver Etheridge, with Kane Halliburton, who missed Silverstone, thankfully being able to join the championship at Snetterton. But disappointingly, he is at the rear of the grid. So drivers now get ready to rejoin the server. We look forward to our first 25-minute race. Can anybody stop Sebastian Job?
It's going to be very difficult, isn't it? I mean, we saw in the first race last time out at Silverstone how difficult it was to try and get the move done on Sebastian. But you saw in that first race at Silverstone as well, him, Luke McEwen, Will Chadwick were all together in that first event. When you look to the front of the field, who do you see at the top 3? Sebastian Job, Luke McEwen, Will Chadwick.
So, in that now familiar Red Bull colour scheme, Sebastian Job on pole position. Everybody lines up in the 1x1 formation, ready for race 3 of the championship season. The Snetterton 300 is the venue. 25 minutes are on the clock. Sebastian Job then at the very front, Luke McEwen with him. Drivers now look towards the lights, which blink out, and we go racing with a good start made by Sebastian Job. Straight away, moves across, defence from Luke McEwen, who dives to the inside line. Pete Berryman's made a decent start as well. He's third ahead of Will Chadwick, and Chadwick in danger of losing another place as they turn their way out of Bridges for the first time. Heading now up towards the hairpin, off at a pinch point. Chadwick to the inside of Berryman. Is there going to be contact between the two? From that angle, it looks like they've just avoided it. Chadwick gets up alongside, but Berryman is going to have the inside line for the next corner, and it's all kicked off behind, hasn't it?
Yeah, Gareth Higgins, that was having issues there, but Chadwick, he didn't make the best of starts. His launch wasn't that good. Pete Berryman jumped him off of the get-go, but I think that lack of contact at the Wilson hairpin was more on Berryman opening up the steering wheel and basically saying, no, we are not going to have a crash. Oh, and that's Gareth Higgins around again.
Well, it's not your day. It is not your day. Poor old Gareth Higgins is well and truly in the walls as others scrabble their way through the infield. In the middle of all of that, you can see number 74, which is Luke Pennington, trying desperately to find ground on the outside line, but not leave the door open. He's sideways, and he does lose out there as Matt Caruana comes charging past him. So 1 out, 1 back for Luke Pennington.
And it was just the slightest of touches, wasn't it, that just unsettled the car through Williams, and that then meant he was a sitting duck down the Bentley straight, and behind Scott Merckx is battling away as well, and this is the 99 of Isaac Price going around the outside of him. That's brave.
It is brave, and it almost worked there. It might not work at Coram, though, but if he can stand his ground, the inside line beckons coming down towards the end of the lap. No, he can't do it there. Isaac Price thinks about a move and then slots back in behind as they turn their way then now through that last left. Up past the pits they will come. Isaac Price got a 14th and a 20th outright at Silverstone. Gained nicely here. So is Daniel Cofield behind. But at the end of lap 1, Sebastian Job was the leader by already 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, he's just got that little bit of a gap. Is it a case of he's just going to try and protect things? These two are still at it, Berryman and Chadwick, as Matt Emery's coming under pressure from Charles Rainford as well. And we've got more carnage. Tom Stevens now involved with Sam Fitzpatrick.
I think there was another car, wasn't there, that was stranded at the hairpin. So, yes, Snetterton, I'm afraid, today is being a rather bruising encounter for many of them, and you can see now the way the gap has opened up between the top two and everybody else. So Job and McEwen have checked out, and part of that is because the battle is on for third place, and Pete Berryman is busy defending, and by defending he's going slower. He's having to take the slower lines as well, and he and Will Chadwick behind him are now losing touch with the pair ahead. David Williams is 5th ahead of Croft and Woodhatch, and in 13th Aidan Walshingham is the leader of AM. That's the replay of the first lap dramas down at Agostini, and it wasn't the only first lap drama.
It's 4 into 1 doesn't go, let alone 3. Yeah, that was not really ideal for those drivers. The guys at the front, I think those two will just get into a little bit of a rhythm here and try and pull away from the battling Berryman and Chadwick. David Williams, I think, is in a good solid position. Compared to last time out at Silverstone, he was maybe just not able to quite be up fighting with those top guys at Silverstone. He was getting involved in battles, but it's good to see David there. 5th place, there he goes through shot. But yeah, these two at the front, I think it's just going to be steady away. I don't think Luke McEwen needs to rush things at the moment. He needs to protect his tyres.
Yeah, he's staying roughly in touch with Sebastian Job, isn't he? 0.4 of a second to gain the margin. Another replay of what happened last time around at the Wilson hairpin, and how one driver gets tagged and tries to rejoin and makes contact with another. They all got going again, which was the good news. So Aidan Walshingham from Scott Mokes and Guy Edwards now within AM. And all of that means that Christian Charuta has fallen quite a long way back within the AM class in the opening 2 laps of the race.
He certainly has, and that's given Aidan Walsingham a great opportunity to try and get some good championship points over his rival. Luke Pennington, he's at a standstill nearly in the middle of a corner there. That's just before Hamilton, so more dramas going on here, David. Do you think the lack of overtaking that happened at Silverstone is now drivers getting a bit impatient here?
I don't know whether it's that or whether it's because there are opportunities here and they are determined to exploit them. But equally, I think there are one or two drivers that had a bad Silverstone and are desperate for points, and they're on the attack, maybe when they shouldn't be. Certainly that first lap was particularly fractious. We've got 20 minutes just under of the race to go. Sebastian Jobe actually losing a bit of time on this lap. The gap has come down between him and Luke McEwen. Pete Berryman still running in third place, hustling on. Will Chadwick is fourth, Williams fifth. Woodhatch runs sixth. Walshingham, Motes, Edwards remains the top three in AM. Sebastian Jobe, we know, however, will just drive within himself. And the fact that Luke McEwen may be a little bit nearer by the midpoint of the lap is probably of no concern at all to Sebastian, because he always seems to have it absolutely under control. There is your lead battle.
And let's not forget, Sebastian has real-world experience in one of these cars around this track as well. So he really did impress with his opportunity of running around this circuit in one of these 911s. So definitely he's got that bit of extra experience on top of the sim.
Has indeed, and he's going to put that all to good use. Replay of dramas for Luke Pennington. Went from half a gap on the inside of a bite a bit there because he came off west and then got another whack but put him back in line. That Isaac Price that hit him. It was a big whack, that, and that may well have done damage to both cars.
Yeah, definitely there will be damage to both cars on that one as well. Neither car have the mechanical meatball warning flag, so they're able to carry on for the time being. But yes, they'll certainly be taking a visit to the spare parts truck, that's for sure.
Right, more battles rage on. As you can see in the middle of all of this, Jacob Toft's then trying to gain ground. He's been in a battle early on with Charles Rainford, and Jacob Toft's another of the real world drivers. Presses on, tries to gain ground. He in turn now has got Caruana in the mix as well. Sebastian Jobe's advantage is going up now. 7/10, 6/10, it's hovering around that margin. And behind, they're rather pairing off, aren't they?
Oh dear, that's on the exit of Nelson there, and that was Rainford going very wide, and Garibaldi on the inside of him there. Love to get another look at that because we only caught the end of it, but yeah, Rainford losing a ton of positions there. Do you get the feeling, David, that there is when you've got real-world drivers getting involved in these, there's a little bit of one-upmanship as well going on in the paddock?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think definitely the sim community want to say, you know, don't think you can just breeze into our world and show us how to do it, because we're just as skilled in this as you might be in real world racing. And poor old Charles Rainford got roughed up at Silverstone as well, didn't he? So he's had it happen to him 2 events in a row. And the net result of all of that is he's down in 11th place. So Jobe to McEwen, that gap half a second over the line. Berryman third, Chadwick fourth, David Williams banking points fifth, with Crofton Woodhatch sixth ahead of Emery, Garibaldi, Tofts, Caruana.
And have you noticed how dark it's getting as well?
I sense rain in the air.
Yes, we have had forecasted rain for race 2, but if we get lucky, or if the drivers are in the behind the wheel unlucky, we may end up with that just at the end of this race, actually. Yeah. Looking at, I don't know if we'll be able to get the radar up at some point, but the rain is heading this way.
So a wet Snet, certainly for race 2 by the look of it. Might even be a damp one at the end of the opening race, which is 16.5 minutes away. So Sebastian Jobe, Luke McEwen, still the top 2. Pete Berryman third ahead of Will Chadwick. And then you can see this long line of cars battling further back, coming out of Williams onto Bentley Straight. Jakub Urbanczyk further back in AM, running 7th in class. Good to have lots of new drivers coming into the AM class for this season. Many of the names in Pro we're familiar with, but it's good to have a new intake in AM.
And I've commentated on Jakob a few times as well, and it's good to see him getting involved here in this championship, getting himself. And remember, all these drivers had to qualify for the series, and it was not an easy thing to do. The qualification times that they had to set was incredibly close and incredibly tight. So to get into the series to start with is one heck of an achievement. Then you've got to step up for the actual series itself.
So 15.5 minutes are on the clock. Aidan Walshingham still leads the battle at the moment then. And behind him is Scott Moakes, who we saw in the championship last year. So Aidan Walshingham, who is part of that Veloce Thrustmaster team, new to the championship this season, in and amongst the battles. A little bit further back there is Urbanchik. And that is the class leader, Aidan Walshingham. Then Scott Moakes bearing down on him. So Aidan has still got to defend. He's still got to keep an eye to the mirror, and he certainly can't relax in the remaining 15 minutes.
Not at all. Scott, as you say, very experienced in the series, knows what it takes to get up there in the class. As Tom Stevens now battling with Urbanchik as he goes to the inside of Hamilton. But yeah, Scott Moakes, he knows what it takes to get a result in and he'll be putting a lot of pressure on Aidan Walshingham at this time. They've got a bit of a gap between them and Charles Rainford, so the top 11 have run away from this grouping of cars.
Have indeed. So Walshingham, Moakes, and then Guy Edwards, the top 3 in This is Jakob Urbanchik's view as he tries to regain lost time, coming down towards the S's, the Brundle-Nelson sequence of corners. Back onto the loud pedal, go right into bomb hole. Up the curb on exit, now into Coram. Fast, daunting, long right-hander. And you come off the corner and then stand on the brakes and go down through the gears, go left, back onto the power, use all of the width of the road and a bit of the grasscrete on the outside. But actually, over the course of the lap, Urbanchik has lost a length or so, and he's still struggling to really get himself back into the mix here.
Yeah, he is. He does seem that way. They have pulled away from those behind, so he can look forward in all of this. So that's one positive, not having to worry about cars behind. This track in particular, you do end up abusing that front left tyre a bit around here. The long sweeping corners at Richards, at Williams, Bombhole, Coram, they all put a lot of force through those left tyres, particularly that front left. So that's why I was saying early on, Luke McEwen might have been looking after his tyres at the front of the field. A lot of these drivers will be thinking the same as well. They want that front left to have some grip towards the end of the race.
Yeah, McEwen is dropping back though, isn't he? That gap has gone up to 0.7 of a second now, as a little bit further back Matt Caruana presses on in the Project 91 car. Now, Matt represented the UK in the FIA Motorsport Games last year, where for the first time there was a GT and a Formula 4 split. He was in the Formula 4 bit, got as far as the semi-finals, and he was the winner, don't forget, of last year's Sprint Challenge Esports Championship. So we know that Matt's good, and he's going to be one to watch over the course of this season for sure.
Matt was really disappointed in that Sprint Challenge to not win every single race outright. He was absolutely gutted that he lost that opportunity at I think it was Alton Park off the top of my head. And you know, he is somebody who's absolutely rapid, but it just goes to show the level of competition here. He was dominant in that championship. That comes in here and is just on the outskirts of the top 10, looking at Leo Gariboli, who once again finds himself in 8th place in race 1, same as last time out at Silverstone.
And the significance of that means 8th is pole on the reversal for race 2. So Leo Gariboli's sort of sacrificing points to be 8th in a sense. You know, sometimes you think, right, do I attack for 7th? Well, all right, might be another point or two in the championship, but it will cost me pole position, which might be the absolute ideal for race 2. The drivers have to kind of think ahead and work out what is best for them. Maybe attacking for a couple of points here or going for a big bagful in the second race. Matt Caruana, though, still presses on. He's on the tail of Jacob Tofts, who's another real-world racer. Jacob, in turn, is, if you like, the best of the rest. He's the first, isn't he, outside of that top 8 bubble.
Yeah, and Tofts, again, he'll be looking to try and close up there in that one, but he's just not really had the pace. I'm looking at his average pace. He's been losing 3 or 4 tenths of a second a lap to Leo Gariboli. So he consistently just losing that little edge each and every lap, and not able to keep up with Leo right there. Leo, I don't think it's by choice that he wants to be in 8th right now. It's just that Matt Emery's got the hammer down and pulled away from him.
Yeah, in a sense, Leo's a bit in no man's land because he's not really catching and he's not really being caught, is he, either? So he's pretty safe in that 8th place at the moment. Maybe he can convert that into a win in the second race of the day, because we've only got 10 minutes then of race 1 to go. There is a study of concentration. Leo Gariboli, gloves on, over the line. It's always fascinating to see not only the setup that drivers have in terms of rigs and screens, but actually what they wear. Partly team uniform, yes, if they're part of an esports team, but do they wear gloves? Because it is quite physical, even on the sim. Do they wear anti-glare sunglasses? All these different things that different drivers choose.
You'll see some drivers driving with tinted glasses to cut out the blue light from the screens. Things like that they'll do just to try and help their eyes not get tired. And there's a lot of physicality in it, but there's also a lot of mental fatigue that happens with sim racing as well, because you've not got that seat of your pants feel of actually being in the car and that natural gyroscope that you have. You've then got to concentrate on the other things that you are getting sensors from, and there's Sam Fitzpatrick, another one who's a study of concentration, and he's not quite going the full Will Chadwick sim racers lean there. He's looking into the side monitors that he's got there.
Looks like he's underwater almost. It's very blue in the background, isn't it? The man that has the Beef and Dairy Network podcast backing, and Sam Fitzpatrick, another newcomer to the championship this season. He's quite a long way down in terms of his overall placing, but the pace is good. He's not last. He's keeping some of the other drivers at bay.
He certainly is doing that. He's got a bit of damage to the front end of that car as well, so he will be down on top speed here. As I actually think this into the S's here, the left, is the most difficult corner, as Urban Check, all manners of out of shape on the exit of the S's there. But I think that is the most difficult corner, is that left-hander, because you're a blind entry into that. You're on the brakes, you're turning and braking at the same time, easy to lock up a wheel, and easy to end up wiping somebody out there as well on the S's.
And it happens whether it's in the Sim Championship or real world racing. Back on board with Sam Fitzpatrick then as he comes over the line. Accelerate down towards Rich's. 8 minutes to go of race 1. Remember, if you're outside the top 8, where you finish is where you start. It's only the top 8 overall, not in the 2 classes. Top 8 overall that will be reversed. Up towards Wilson now. Brake hard, down to second gear, turn right. Back onto the power. In fact, down to first gear for Sam Fitzpatrick. Hook second on exit up to third. Now down towards turn 3, the fast left. Bit of a lift going into it. And then back onto the power to haul the car out the other side and go down to Agostini.
Yeah, and we've got them fighting further back behind as well. That's Conan Wynn, who, again, another newcomer to the championship, who he found it tough going in that first race last time out at Silverstone, but improved in the second race of the day. And I think he's starting to get his footing here in this championship, and fighting there in that Am area.
Yeah, I mean, Silverstone for the first couple of races is a tough way to start a championship in a sense, because there aren't many corners, therefore the pack's always going to stay together, therefore it's always going to be busy, and if you can survive that, do well, then you've had a good start to the campaign for sure. Charles Rainford, just to go back to him for a moment, still mired in 11th after being roughed up earlier on. Aidan Walshingham has kept at bay Scott Moak, so Aidan is on potentially here for a second-class win of the season.
Just to give you a little bit of an update, I'm looking at the weather radar here. Turn 1, Riches, is going to get some rain in the next couple of minutes. Just light rain, but again, another tricky corner to suddenly find yourself with a lot less grip than you had the lap before.
Okay, so if that's coming in 2 minutes' time, then roundabout, that's going to give us 4 minutes of the race in which they're going to have to be careful. And you can see exactly how dark it is getting over the Norfolk circuit then. So Sebastian Job leads the way still to as ever thus. He is now on lap 11. We're anticipating 14 laps and heading up now towards Wilson. Absolutely nose to tail in this little battle pack. Oliver Ettridge just ahead in 57. Yeah,
Ettridge just trying his best to be able to move forward ahead of Sam Fitzpatrick, and you can see water being just starting to come up a little bit here now, so the track's getting damp. They'll be fine on the slicks for a while as long as they can keep the temperature in the tyre. That's the crucial thing here. If you can keep that temperature in the tyre, then you will still be able to carry on with a damp surface. But if that tyre gets too cold or the rain gets heavier, that's when you'll really start struggling.
Right, so let's see what a struggle it may be. This is Sam Fitzpatrick, and he's about to come off the paperclip towards Bentley Straight. Now, this might well now be the drier part of the circuit. He's had to cope with the wet bit round turn 1, and of course you've got a lot of corners all crammed into the same bit of real estate round the first part of the lap. You've done, in terms of mileage, a good chunk of the Snetterton 300 by the time you actually get onto Bentley Straight. Sam Fitzpatrick then, the wiper at work, comes out of the S's, the Brundle Nelson sequence, now towards Bomb Hole. Here, doesn't look too bad, does it?
Well, yeah, it's the furthest away from where the rain's coming from, so yeah, it will be better. I can tell you that the rain is going to be getting a bit harder as well. It's going from a light shade of blue to a hue of green, so it is getting more intense as this rain. Oh, this could be an exciting end to the race here, David.
Absolutely right. The weather is always such a great leveller. It adds so much more to a race. It's just a shame in some respects now that there's a growing trend of always neutralising races or stopping them if it does get too wet, rather than letting people persevere or make a tyre change or whatever. But in the virtual world, they are going to have to battle on with it for 4 more minutes. Tim Darracott you're looking at there, 20th overall, and certainly up to round about turn 4, it is a wet road.
Yeah, these drivers, they'll be fine for now. They'll be okay. Yeah, it'll be... I think iRacing, it does exaggerate the amount of water with the look, with the spray. I don't think it's quite as wet as it looks, but I'll tell you, from driving the sim myself, you've got to find the wet line at some point, because that dry line that you normally take, it's polished off, it's smooth, it's slick in the rain, as there goes Caruana to the inside of Tofts.
Yeah, couldn't do it, but Matt Caruana, now the road has become wet, has absolutely stormed onto the back of Jacob. Now, that might mean that Matt Caruana has webbed feet, or it might mean that Jacob is less confident in the wet. But either way, it's game on here for 9th place. Doesn't help either of them for the reversal. This is for 3rd, and this is game on as well with 3 minutes to go, because Chadwick now, the red car, Will Chadwick, right on the back of Pete Berryman as they come across the line. So Will Chadwick, real world racer as well, lines up for the inside line, makes a big dive at Riches. He's got his nose in front, but he's not quite completed the move, and Berryman got the drive off the corner, bit more traction on the outside, he's still ahead. To the inside goes Chadwick, door is closed by Pete Berryman, and Pete did a really good job to hang on to that. Bit of a twitch coming out of the hairpin, but he's still there 3rd.
Oh, that was bold. Going into Riches where all the rain is coming from, and it is getting heavier now out there. Sebastian Job's last lap was a 1:55.0. That's down nearly 6 seconds on what they were doing as a dry time. Pete Berryman, look, he's got a red car all in his mirrors right now. Job has lost time to Luke McEwen, it's worth pointing out as well, so we've got to keep an eye on those two. It seems to be neutralising a bit, but cars are just struggling left, right and centre out there.
Thought Crofton Woodhatch was having a problem with the connection for a moment. I thought he disappeared, but he is still there in 6th. Matt Emery 7th, Leo Gariboli in 8th, but that could all yet change, couldn't it, as they wriggle their way now up towards the exit of onto Bentley Straight out of Williams. So drivers looking for traction, but a great little gaggle of cars all squabbling here.
Caruana's had issues out there. Isaac Price has been off as well. Oh, it's like Bambi on ice, is this? This is just drivers tiptoeing around here on slick tyres, but this is where you do get to see who are the ones that have got that deft touch.
And it also has given us a change of lead in AM. Scott Mokes has got himself up past Aidan Walshingham now, so it could be a third different winner in 3 races in AM. Forget that Luke Pennington domination of last year. But right now, you've got to survive. Yes, OK, you can be a hero, but if you survive and you finish, you might finish quite well. Chadwick has not finished with Berryman. Through they come together. And again, Will Chadwick on this now very wet part of the circuit lines up to have a go. The rain is falling much more heavily now. You can see Chadwick to the outside line. Now, often in the wet, more grit is on the outside. So can Chadwick go all the way around the outside of Berryman? The answer is no. There's contact between the two, and Chadwick is the one that comes off worst. Forced onto the grass. Berryman gets away. That may get looked at as the leaders struggle around the hairpin, and Job goes deep through the corner. Last lap, Paul.
Oh, this is chaos. This is carnage. This is what we love to see. It's these drivers pushing all the way to the end. And the last lap, the leader's 2 minutes 4. So they lost another 9 seconds on the previous lap. That tells you just how wet it is out there. And I do think that the drivers have lost that tyre temperature that I was talking about. And it's just like ice now out there for them.
Yeah, the bat wagging, isn't it? Luke McEwen on the tail of Sebastian Job. This is for the race lead. So Sebastian Job, when they went across the line, only 0.3 of a second ahead. Now, as long as he brings it home ahead, then doesn't matter what the gap is. But right now, his task is to survive, and he struggles for traction and almost gets a whack in the back from McEwen, who was struggling even more. Job put down the power, and again, the back twitched ever so slightly. He corrects that, but Sebastian Job is having a tough last lap, not only because of the weather, but also because McEwen is right behind him.
Oh, wow. I mean, Leo Garibaldi, he must be quite the wet weather driver. He's up to 6th suddenly. You got Chadwick and Berryman are switching places. Contact!
McEwen to the inside. Job is on the grass. They're both on the grass. Neither of them can make the corner, so they scrabble back on. And who's got the momentum? Luke McEwen tries to get up the inside of Sebastian Job. Neither of them can really get the power down, because not only is the road wet, but so are the tyres, having been across the wet grass. So they're tiptoeing to the end. McEwen thinks about the inside at Coram. Can't make it stick there. Sebastian Job, I think he's going to survive, but only just. Luke McEwen is right there behind him. There's half a gap on the inside coming out of Coram, but it's the outside as they drop down to the end of the lap. There's contact between the two. McEwen is off the road. Job's ahead, and that's going to be enough, isn't it, to get him to the checkered flag. It is race 3 of the Porsche Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup GB, and it's the second win of the year for Sebastian Job, who goes through now to score victory just ahead of Luke McEwen. But further back, there are battles aplenty to resolve, with Chadwick up to 3rd.
Oh, this has been just turned completely upside down as this race. This has been fantastic here. My goodness. And credit to the drivers for doing what they are. Oh, that was a bit deep there from Giruta. Made contact. I don't think he was ever getting that car stopped, and 2 drivers make it past Giruta and all of that.
Well, Matt Caruana's yo-yo race continues, and in the end, Guy Edwards is the winning AM from Aidan Walshingham and Christian Giruta. So Scott Mokes fell back, and Guy Edwards takes his first ever win in Carrera Cup GB Esports, and a very, very well-deserved one. Congratulations, Guy Edwards. Great job done. In the end, 13 laps, I think we did, and Sebastian Job was the winner by 0.7 of a second, which makes it sound easy, but it could not be further from the truth, could it, that?
I just want to point out, Luke Pennington actually pitted with 2 laps to go to put wet tyres on, has finished 18th. Okay. That's an incredible choice. Okay. If you're further down, he had damage, you might as well throw the dice. Wow.
Sebastian Job has done it again then, from Luke McEwen in 2nd place, Will Chadwick 3rd, and Pete Berryman 4th. 5th, his first outing of the year, Matt Emery, ahead of Leo Garibaldi, who really shone towards the end to be 6th, ahead of Crofton Woodhatch, with David Williams in 8th. Charles Rainford was 9th, and 10th went the way of Jacob Toft's. Fastest lap to Sebastian Job when it was dry. 11th, Matt Caruana. And then in AM, the top 3, Guy Edwards, Aidan Walshingham, Christian Giruta, and Scott Mokes, who had led at one point, down in 15th place overall, 4th in class. Isaac Price ahead of Tom Stevens, Luke Pennington 18th after the pit stop, Eric Grove 19th, and Daniel Cofield in 20th place. Sam Fitzpatrick was 21st from Gareth Higgins and Jakob Abanchik, then Conan Wean, Dylan Platt behind him. Adam Cox was 26th ahead of Oliver Ettridge, and Tim Darracott was a lap down. So then, a really good first race, and as predicted, the weather played a part in it. Well, it's going to be a totally wet second race, as we understand it, but the drivers have at least had a taste of what the track is like, admittedly, on slicks in the wet, though.
Yeah, and if anything, that maybe skews how you feel that the track is going to be grip-wise compared to wets. I will say, cold, wet tyres are no fun here on iRacing, so the drivers will be scrabbling for grip, and nobody will be coming to come and speak to us right now, because they'll all be out there for the 3-minute warm-up that they get to get as much experience of the cars in the wet with wet tyres on.
One driver has a tiny advantage, and that's Luke Pennington. As you say, he made that inspired choice to pit, get wets on, partly to salvage what he could, but also, I guess, to explore the circuit for race 2.
Yeah, sometimes you do think, well, actually, I'm out of the running for points anyway in Pro. I might as well bolt the set of wets on these Michelin wets and see what it's like there. And he was stone dead last when he pitted, and he finished 18th in the end of that race. That just showed how much speed that wet tyre had over the cold, slick tyre, and it really worked out for him to move through the field.
Now, the race 2 grid, which we'll get to in a few moments, is based on the results of race 1, but with the top 8 now reversed. So it's going to be another really interesting race with the AM class in particular, I think, having proved just how competitive that championship is going to be. 3 races, 3 different winners. The other interesting part of race 1, though, was how difficult it was for Sebastian Job to shake off Luke McEwen. He could not do it.
He got that gap up to about 1.2, 1.3 seconds at one point, didn't he? But as you say, again, Luke McEwen is keeping Sebastian honest here and proving that he is going to be a real championship challenger for Sebastian here, just like he was last season as well. Was Luke. 1 or 2 mistakes last season cost him, but this season I think he's a much more complete competitor. And I do think that Luke could have a good go at it. But David Williams and Crofton Woodhatch on the front row of this grid coming up, don't write them off, because they're going to have a nice clear windscreen right at the start of the race.
But by the same token, they're going to be the pioneers, aren't they? Certainly on the first lap, they are going to be the first to find the puddles, to assess the grip levels. And, okay, they might have the visibility, but they will also have nothing else as a reference point. You know, they will be the first one to discover where the grip may or may not be. So it's going to be a very interesting second race, that is for sure. Let's just take a quick look at the grid. David Williams, then, is the man on pole position. Crofton Woodhatch lining up alongside Leo Garibaldi starts 3rd. Matt Emery 4th, ahead of Pete Berryman and Will Chadwick. Their battle set to continue. Luke McEwen goes from 7th, ahead of Sebastian Job. Then Charles Rainford, best of the rest, if you like, 9th, winning the real world battle ahead of Jacob Tofts. Matt Caruana 11th, and well done Guy Edwards on the AM pole. By winning race 1, he's 12th, ahead of Aidan Walshingham and then Christian Charuta. Scott Mokes next, with pro-class Isaac Price for company. Tom Stevens, who was in the wars in race 1, has Luke Pennington alongside him. Luke also in the wars in the opener. Eric Grove next from Daniel Cofield. Then Sam Fitzpatrick and Gareth Higgins. Jakob Obanchik's 23rd on the grid. Adam Cox is 24th. After that, there is Dylan Platt and Oliver Ettridge. Conan Wean on the penultimate row with Tim Darracott alongside. And then Kane Halliburton, who I don't think actually did race 1 again. Did he have problems getting into the server? He was there in practice, but poor old Kane seems to be having all sorts of connectivity issues, which are keeping him out of races. Let's hope that he's in this one. We'll check.
He does seem to be on the back of the grid, yes, so he is here. So we're going to have 29 cars on the grid. So yeah, did not start in race the first race of the day, but there he is, Kane Halliburton at the back of the grid. And, well, are we going to see a charge from Kane, the pro driver?
Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see what he can do in this race. There's, as ever in a reverse grid race, the drama from people being out of position. You've got a quick driver at the back like that as well. Oh, and you've got the weather. Oh, and you've got the drama of AM and so much competitive racing within that. This is going to be good, that is for sure. Again, it's 25 minutes, and we are looking then now the final few seconds before the lights will go to red. They do so now, and when the lights go out, race number 4 of the season will be underway. Engine notes rise. It is blast off, and a good start made by David Williams. Is it good enough? Bad start, really, in contrast there for the man alongside him, Crofton Woodhatch, who goes backwards, so up already to gain ground. Leo Gariboli, and I think also a good start being made by Matt Emery as they paddle their way round Riches for the first time.
I think an outboard motor might be in order around there as, Williams holds on to that lead for now. But look at Gariboli, he's sticking a nose in here. He knows what it's like to be at the front of these reverse grid races, and he wants a bit more of the action here this week. We've got battling further down as well. Will Chadwick's moving ahead of Emery, and Sebastian Job has made the move on Luke McEwen as well.
Big lose for Luke Pennington, though, because he's way out in the weeds, having gone push at turn 3. So Luke Pennington lawn mows his way across the runoff area, gets back on circuit as they dive down through Agostini for the first time. It is just Williams ahead of Gariboli. Just being the operative word, though.
Yeah, this is tight at the front here. This is great stuff to see, and it's great to see Gariboli again up there at the front, challenging David Williams. I said David's a stalwart of esports professionally, but he's showing that he can lead a race here at Leo. He's got the bit between his teeth right now. What he also has is a face full of spray.
And we've got Christian Schoruter as the leading AM. Sebastian Job on his toes, trying to get himself up the order, getting ahead of Matt Emery. Sebastian just ahead. It looks ever so endurance race like this, doesn't it? In the gloom, with the headlights piercing that as they come down towards the S's. On the outside line is Emery, on the inside line is Job, but then that switches sides. Emery has the inside for the second part of the S's, but Job on the outside gets the drive off the corner and secures 6th place. Yes, he's done it. Good job. Well done. Sebastian Job goes by, and straight away Emery on the defensive against McEwen.
It's never gloomy at Snetterton, is it? Well, occasionally. McEwen now, he's got to try and find his way through, and he's not been able to quite move through like the proverbial hot knife through butter, so he's got to bide his time, but these track conditions are going to stay pretty stable, pretty similar all the way through this race. We've got a consistent amount of rainfall. This is going to be interesting as Job now trying to fight. Oh, Job's off! Job's off in the weeds!
Write it down, because you don't see that very often. Sebastian Job hemorrhaging places. He's down to 11th. Tries to retaliate on the outsiders there for the race lead. They go side by side. Still Williams on the inside for turn 3. Gariboli on the outside. He's looking for a bit more grip, but he's got the grip. He's got the lead. Has he on the outside line? No. Gets run out wide. And so now Pete Berryman goes second. Chadwick's up to 3rd. And Leo Gariboli, rather than gaining ground, has lost 2 places. It is Berryman taking the fight to Williams. Down to Agostini. Gap on the inside. He's done it. Pete Berryman, the new leader.
A sensational couple of turns there for Berryman to be able to gain 2 places there, and now Pete will just be looking forward. He's not looking in his mirrors. He's got to keep the car on the track, though. Using those curbs is a very dangerous thing, as is touching the white lines. You've got to be so careful in these conditions, and I think it was just a case of Williams and Gariboli just pushing wide through Palmer, and that allowed Williams the opportunity, Berryman the opportunity.
This is why wet weather races can be so good. Not necessarily torrential rain where it's too wet to do anything, but conditions where it does test the drivers, and you can have a real input by seeing who the drivers are that are good in the wet. Off goes David Williams, and then clatters into Berryman, the race leader. Pete Berryman, the totally innocent victim of that. He led into the corner. He's now 4th, and Will Chadwick is the new race leader because it all kicked off ahead of him.
The last thing that Will needs to do is think, haha, thank you very much. He needs to focus. He needs to concentrate, because that could very easily happen to him the next lap. And I mentioned it, didn't I, literally a few minutes ago in that first race, how you've seen drivers have a moment there and just end up wiping out somebody out on their own.
There was another spinner in the background. Here's the replay. So Williams goes off, and bang, Pete Berryman doing everything right. Not only gets knocked off the circuit, he loses 4 places as well, and probably picks up damage. So Will Chadwick is the leader from David Williams. Leo Gariboli is 3rd. Pete Berryman is 4th. And in replay, Jakob Urbanczyk in the wars. Oliver Ettridge goes off the road as well. The battle between Gariboli and Williams earlier on was for the lead. Now it's for 2nd, and Gariboli goes round the outside, and this time it works, and he hangs on to 2nd place.
Oh, but Berryman runs onto the grass there, so that allows Croft and Woodhatch, Matt Emery, Luke McEwen past. Berryman will be hoping to stay ahead of Sebastian Job to help his teammate out in the championship. But he's got his own championship to worry about. And Jacob Tofts, now is this where a little bit of that real-world experience of racing in the rain comes into play here?
Could well be. Jacob Tofts 8th. Christian Charuta has done some real-world racing as well. Charles Rainford is another, but he's dropped quite a long way back once more, I fear, as Job goes around the outside, does he, of Tofts, and he's got the place. So Job up to 8th. You see how wide he goes there, looking for a bit more grip, and it sort of pays off. Now Jacob Tofts sits in the spray, coming down Bentley Straight. Rainford 18th, so he's had a moment as well.
Yeah, and it's using that wet line. The problem is, and I think we've seen it a few times through Palmer's, is people have been going a little bit too far wide to get that wet line, and it's cost them going onto the grass. As soon as you touch that grass here, that's it, you're going off. It's like a magnet, and it just draws you into it. Berryman and Emery almost swapping paint between the two of them, and Job, nowhere to go in all of that.
Gets his nose up the inside. Coming through Coram, but there's a whole heap of traffic to either side. More mayhem, I'm afraid. That was Matt Emery getting it wrong. He hit and was then hit himself by Job. Who did he wipe out in all of that? But there was certainly one car that he harpooned. Woodhatch, Croft and Woodhatch.
Yeah.
So, you can, it just illustrates, you can drive your own race, have the best plan in the world, and you can be the innocent victim of somebody else making a mistake. You saw it with Pete Berryman, seen it with Croft and Woodhatch. And then as Job came through, he in turn also hits Emery. That was Rainford getting it wrong and being collected by possibly Caruana. There's an awful lot going on in this race. Isaac Price is in the midst of it as well.
Yeah, I wish all the best to the people trying to keep their map charts up to date with who's where as they cross the line. That's certainly going to be tricky for them. But Isaac Price moving through the field. The problem is now he's reached the front of this group of cars, and he's now got about 3 seconds between him and Sebastian Job in 7th. So Isaac's got to really get the hammer down now here to try and pull away from Eric Grove and the rest of this gaggle and try and catch up to that leading group.
Whether the drivers like the wet settings in-game is a moot point, I think, but it's making it great for us, no question about it. So there was discussion pre-season, should we have a wet race, where should we have it? Well, it's turned out to throw a whole heap of surprises at us, and Will Chadwick, the race leader, is 2 seconds clear from Leo Gariboli. David Williams hanging on to 3rd. Now, whether David Williams might get a penalty for the contact with Berryman, discuss, because certainly Pete Berryman was innocent, and David Williams did cause a collision by going off the way that he did at the S's, but it certainly wasn't intentional. Berryman is 5th, Jacob Tofts 6th, Sebastian Job 7th, though they've switched back again, and Isaac Price is now up into 8th place, his best showing of the season.
Yeah, he's gained 8 places from where he started this race as well, so he's really been working his way through the field in the rain. I will say, if I'm a steward in these conditions, I am giving a little bit of leeway in certain types of incidents. I still think the onus is on the driver. Pete Berryman's slower. Was that a slow down penalty, I wonder? I wonder if he's ended up sliding off and cutting one of the corners, but Berryman losing a couple of places. That puts Job at 1, and Job's having to go at Tofts again.
And he's ahead, isn't he, already, going up towards the hairpin. So with 16 minutes to go, Sebastian Job is ahead. He goes deep into the corner, but he gets the drive out the other side. So Job back up to 5th. We're looking at 12 laps for this race. That's the prediction. And we are on lap 5 right now. This is Tofts' view.
Yeah, and Tofts is going to see Sebastian Job pull away, unfortunately, for Jacob. I just think that Sebastian's got that edge pace-wise. I mean, surprise, surprise, Will Chadwick is the fastest driver out there. But Job, right now, is a couple of seconds quicker, near enough, than David Williams on that last lap alone. So I would imagine that Williams and Job are going to start fighting soon.
Now, Kane Halliburton, we talked about pre-race in the context of not really having done any racing yet, but it's good to have him on the grid, and Kane Halliburton is up the curb, and he's making good progress, isn't he? Because that's another place gain for him, wriggling his way up past Dylan Platt. So number 94 which is Kane Halliburton. He runs in the pro category, in and amongst the battles. 17th he is from the back of the grid, going nicely.
Yeah, and it was Dylan Platt, a fellow pro driver, that he made that move on. So a couple of pros fighting. Tom Stevens ahead in AM of these dueling. So Halliburton trying his best. It was quite a good move as well from Kane to Hamilton, although coming back and giving a little bit of a rub up there was Dylan Platt. He's not giving up on this place.
He's not, so Kane Halliburton putting himself in jeopardy here, but that was a good move around the outside, and Scott Moakes tries to follow him. As I keep saying, there is often more grip to be found on the outside in the wet. Moakes can't quite clear Platt. He's got to slot back in behind him. He's in the spray, desperately hunting for grip as much as visibility. Down at the end of the lap, 14 minutes to go. Luke Pennington's in the middle of all of this as well, isn't he?
I'm always reminded when I see spray like this, whenever I've done a wet race here on iRacing, I'm always reminded of the famous clip of John Cleland at Knockhill, be about 30 odd years ago now, saying, where the hell's the track? It's just, it is like that. Your vision is just completely impaired, and you are having to use your surroundings for your brake markers, and even just popping the nose out. You're not making a move, you're just trying to see where on the track you are.
Exactly right. Kane Halliburton losing out again to Dylan Platt, but Kane still in the thick of the battle. He's fended off Platt. He recovered coming out of the corner, and now Kane Halliburton tries to go for a place as well, doesn't he? Tom Stevens is the next target for him. 13 minutes and change on the clock. This is going down towards Agostini. Kane Halliburton in that sort of black and gold car on the outside line. Can't quite make that move stick.
But he's using that wet line really well, is Kane. You saw Dylan Platt there just take the title line into the corner, so the braking will be better for Dylan on that inside line, because that's not the normal line that you would use through there. But then when you're trying to apply the power, you want to be on the outside line, although Halliburton had to check up there through Williams, and that gives the opportunity to Platt again.
Great battle between these two. Kane Halliburton, having done the hard yards early on to get from the back of the grid into the mix, is finding it a lot tougher now to clear people and actually keep the place that he ever gains. Up the curb on the inside, contact between them. Platt off the road. Now let's see how he slithers back on. Thankfully, with that further contact, and he's going to rejoin behind Kane Halliburton. In fact, he may well be out of the race, because Dylan Platt doesn't really pick up speed, does he? And he loses yet more ground.
Because he cut the corner, he had to serve a slow-down penalty. He had to give up the time that he gained through there. The problem is that he couldn't find himself a slot to get back in safely, and had to cut across another corner, so got yet more penalties. The puddles on the side of the track are really catching some people out on corner exit where they're getting the power down. Pete Berryman, I thought he was going to end up wiping out Jacob Tofts there.
Well, there's 11 3/4 minutes yet, so we're not totally done. Toft 6th, Berryman 7th. In a real yo-yo race for Pete Berryman, this. Jacob Toft coming back at him as they accelerate through. Berryman, he desperately wants to try to gain ground here. Christian Scheruter, incidentally, is the leading AM. He's picking his way through the pros. Now he's got away from the class opposition. Berryman oh so deep into Agostini. Toft's ahead of him. And Jacob Toft going after David Williams. Sebastian Joe, by the way, after his earlier dramas, back up into 4th place.
And crucially for him, directly behind Luke McEwen, so he's not really losing out that big haul of points that McEwen would have wanted. He would have wanted that separation between him and Sebastian to try and claw back some points in the championship. So Sebastian doing well, but it's about 3.5 seconds between him and Luke at the front. So I think Sebastian will just be a case of focus and keep looking forward. But Pete Berryman in all of this, he's found himself in an unfortunate situation where two drivers are fighting in front of him. I just feel that Pete does have that little bit more speed than these two in front.
We saw Matt Emery involved in incidents earlier on. He has retired from the race, sadly. 10.5 minutes are on the clock. The rain is still falling here at Snetterton, and Will Chadwick remains the race leader here by 2.5 seconds from Leo Gariboli. So Will Chadwick up front, building that gap, bearing in mind he got a 2nd and a 9th at Silverstone. A win here would be very well received, would it not?
Yeah, especially after the coming together he had with Matt Caruana at Silverstone in race 2 of last time out. So he'll be wanting some good points to try and help him with his championship fight. But Jacob Toft's giving as good as he gets here in amongst these top 5, top 6 standings. In fact, Toft's going for it on Williams.
He is indeed on the inside, and Berryman goes through as well. So 2 places lost for David Williams, the man that started on pole position. He tries to fight back because Williams always manages to keep the car on the inside line here into turn 3. So he's back up the inside of Berryman, and he keeps his nose in front. Hangs onto the place. Berryman forced out wide.
I think there was just a slight rub there mid-corner as well that forced Berryman wide there. It's a tale as old as time, is this Coanda versus Apex Racing team, and these two continuing that fight here between them. And, well, Williams does lose the place then to Pete Berryman in the end. So Berryman through into 6th.
It's not over till it's over, is it? So Will Chadwick, race leader, didn't take a race win last year. So it will be a very popular, very well-deserved win if he can hang on in there, with the margin now being 3.8 seconds. He's escaping up the road from Leo Gariboli. We're into the last 9 minutes. There is Chadwick in the very distinctive, if understated, all red car. And Will Chadwick accelerates towards us then. So Will clear of the opposition, but he's just got to make sure he's error-free.
Will Chadwick in the Contender Series, we saw him win his first race in the Porsche Esports Contender Series at Okayama in appalling conditions. Normally, if the conditions were like we had at Okayama, normally you'd be seeing red flags. It was that bad.
Really?
He won the race in absolutely atrocious conditions, so he shows that he can race in these wet conditions, can Will, and he's certainly showing it. 3.5 second lead.
It's an impressive drive, no question about it. Likewise, Leo Gariboli doing a good job in second place, and Luke McEwen hanging on in there in third. Kane Halliburton fighting the car down towards the end of the lap. He's put himself on track ahead of Christian Charuta. So Kane Halliburton started 29th and he's up to 13th. Another tip of your cap, I think, is due here, Paul, because that is quite a drive by Kane Halliburton, not only from the back of the grid, but also bearing in mind how little track time he's had against the others this year already.
Well, this is the first race that he's actually been able to get behind the wheel, so
exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely great. Oh, car going off there on the exit of Riches, there, rejoining to the track then. But I will say I'm keeping an eye on Leo Gariboli and Luke McEwen, because those two are getting pretty close now out there. The battle for second place, and Luke will be in the Apex Racing team car. We'll be saying to Leo in the Apex Racing Academy car, here, Leo, do me a favour, let me through and hold back that Sebastian Job for me, will you?
I think also I'm right in saying that the fastest lap of the race has gone to Luke McEwen by just under a tenth from Will Chadwick's best lap. But Chadwick is going to take the 10 points potentially for a win. Replay of Aidan Walshingham going off the road. Aidan's been a pole position driver and a winner within AM this year, but he's having a tough day at Snetterton, and it's just got no better. Jacob Toft's next, 8th, as he comes down to the braking zone, and Isaac Price just ahead of him. And Price will stay ahead, I think, as they come through the S's. Jacob Toft tries the outside, no way through there. He couldn't get the undercut coming off the corner either.
Yeah, that was very, very professionally done there by Isaac. Oh, Jacob's bit deep through the bomb hole. And that gives Caruana the opportunity now through Coram. But Toft has got that outside line with the grippier surface. Caruana's got to be careful here under braking. But he will get the better run out of the corner. He'll get the better launch, you would imagine. But no, Toft just stays ahead for the time being. But look at that now. Spray and a slipstream for Caruana.
So the move is on the inside at Riches, side by side with just under 6 minutes to go. Still no chance for Caruana to go by. Jacob Toft hangs on to the place. His father was a very handy single-seater racer many years ago, Neil Toft. Jacob carrying on the family tradition of being a good, quick race driver, going the Porsche route rather than single-seaters, and he's fending off Matt Caruana as we've got 1 or 2 more, I'm afraid, retiring. That was Crofton Woodhatch to the pit lane out of the race.
Yeah, that's his day done, I'm afraid, for Crofton. Kane Halliburton's had issues out there and has had a moment at the hairpin here, but has carried on in this race. But look at the field spread here in this race. It just shows who has got a handle of these wet conditions and who's really been struggling out there here today. But you've also got a clear split of the pros and the AMs again here this week. That just goes to show how the administrators of the series seem to have got that split pretty much spot on.
You would also say, I hope you would agree with me, that Guy Edwards has had a good day. A win in the first race for the first time, and he's running second at the moment in number 55. Guy doing well. So there he is. He'll come away from the day potentially with a really good haul of points. And I think we've already seen how competitive AM is. 3 different winners out of the first 3 races. You know, if you are banking points, that's got to help for the championship.
It certainly does. Oh, Luke Pennington at the side of the road. He's had a nightmare of a day here today. Not been a good one at all. But RD Simsport with Guy Edwards, Rob Sutherland, the team boss, will be delighted with how things are going as Halliburton making hard work of getting past Charles Rainford there, and Charles is not giving this one up yet.
No, but Charles Rainford again having a tough day. Like at Silverstone, he's forced out wide coming into Coram. Kane Halliburton up from the back of the grid, remember, has now worked his way through into 12th place, which is a fantastic drive. And there's not much seemingly that Charles Rainford can do by way of retaliation. In real-world racing, Charles, one of the stars of Carrera Cup GB, adapting to esports racing. And Halliburton looks as though he's in charge as they come across the stripe.
Yeah, Halliburton just having that. And look at that. He's already losing it, is Luke, coming through Williams. And just boot full of throttle. There's nothing that you can really do there. Wet grass. And it's so difficult because you've got to be careful rejoining the track there because it's so fast at that point of the track that you don't want to end up wiping somebody out there through just your own mistake.
Yeah, Luke Pennington must be thinking, why did I have to move up from AM? I enjoyed it there. It was much, much better for me, but it's been a tough start of the year. Here, meanwhile, 6th place, David Williams, Isaac Price, Jacob Tops, Matt Caruana, 4 in a line, and anything could yet happen in the remaining 3 minutes. Isaac Price, we talked about people having bad days. He's one of those that's had a good day here. 2 very solid races.
Yeah, he's improved on that Silverstone round, and I think he's just having to acclimatise himself to iRacing once again. He does other sims as well, does Isaac, so he does have to get used to the sim as well, and its particular foibles. Oh, Matt Caruana. Oh, why are you trying to make this 3 wide down the Bentley straight? This is, well, I think I might have to close my eyes here because it's going to be an accident, surely.
Jacob Toft goes through. He tried to make it work coming out of the paperclip. He gets it to finally work at the end of Bentley Straight. So Jacob Toft is up to 7th. Isaac Price, having said he had a good day, whoops, he's lost a place. And Matt Caruana tried to buy into that while they were squabbling. It didn't work for him. Toft's the beneficiary. Caruana to the inside, coming into Coram. Very wide is Toft, but again, that's where the grip is. So don't worry too much about that. Jacob Toft is 6th. Price has a cheeky look to the inside, can't do it, understeers wide, and now Matt Caruana needs to pull the pin and try to get up alongside as Chadwick leads, McEwen 2nd now because Gary Bowley is in 3rd. That means we've got a change between those two. There's Caruana on the outside line, 1.5 minutes to go, so the next lap will be the last.
Oh, they're just trying to get that switch under there. Caruana not working out for him at this time, but we've seen that he's brave, shall we say, as Matt, and I don't think going onto the grass down the straight was the wisest idea in this race. It certainly shortens your races usually if you do that in the wet.
Yeah, it certainly didn't dry the tyres, did it? That was for sure. But I think when he committed to the move, he rather expected they'd be battling on the other side of the circuit. Never quite happened. So Caruana, you're looking at 9th at the moment on the back of Isaac Price. David Williams still hanging on a 6th place, having started on pole position. So Chadwick, McEwen, Gary Bowley, Job, Berryman ahead of this next battle pack. Next lap through will be the last lap, and Caruana much quicker here, coming from Hamilton to Oggies and then up towards Williams. Goes to the outside line of Isaac Price, and he's done it. Round the outside nose in front, but Price has the shorter line into the next corner, so he's back ahead. Great battle between these two.
Oh, this is great stuff to watch between these two, and We know how fast Caruana is. We know what a fighter that Isaac Price is. Neither of them are going to give up. And we'll see how it goes. But it's that wet line once again showing the advantage that you have there. Caruana's trying to make it work. He's got the inside now for Nelson. Little touch, forcing Price onto the curb. And meanwhile, the race leader is run out of time. That's the end of the race.
So there is Will Chadwick then, takes the checkered flag to win, and Will Chadwick scores a maiden victory in Porsche Raffet Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup GB. Brilliant drive by Will Chadwick to win from Luke McEwen, and then Leo Gariboli in third place, and Caruana has put himself ahead of Isaac Price, and Christian Charuta, by the look of it, is on target for a second AM win of the season. What a race!
That flew by. Absolutely sensational stuff. Brilliant stuff from all of the drivers there. And yeah, Christian Charuta, he's still under pressure from Guy Edwards here. Edwards trying to get the run out of that last corner. This could be close at the line, actually.
Could indeed. Edwards in the wheel tracks. He's not going to dart out in time. He makes the move now, but it is Christian Charuta ahead as they come across the line, but not by much, that is for sure. A really good drive by Christian Charuta, who comes through to take honours by 95 thousandths from Guy Edwards. And Kane Halliburton, 29th he started, 12th he finishes as Jakub Bancic goes across the line now, very nearly being able to gain another place right at the end. But some very impressive drives. Certainly Will Chadwick's is one of them, and I would say Kane Halliburton is somebody else that deserves a big round of applause for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Gareth Higgins just in front of Kane as well, gained 11 places in that race, so he had a really good second race of the day.
So the race winner, Will Chadwick, very well-deserved victory, no question about it, and he will make his way back to the pit lane. We'll hear from him in due course. Luke McEwen was the man in second place, and he got the fastest lap, 2 minutes 4.065. Just contrast that for a moment with the best lap of the first race at 1:48, just to show you how much slower it's become. So Will Chadwick, the race winner, after 12 laps from Luke McEwen and Leo Gariboli in third. Sebastian Jobe went off the road but recovered for fourth, ahead of Pete Berryman and David Williams in sixth. Jacob Toft was seventh, ahead of Matt Caruana and Isaac Price. The top 10 completed by Eric Grove. 11th went the way of Gareth Higgins. Kane Halliburton, flat last, first race, finished 12th. Well done, that man. 13th, Charles Rainford. And then of the AMs, Christian Charuta, the winner from Guy Edwards and Tom Stevens. Scott Mokes was 4th. Pro Dylan Platt, 18th overall, just ahead of Daniel Cofield and Aidan Walshingham, who had a really tough race going off early on. Then it was Conan Weird ahead of Luke Pennington and Adam Cox. Jakub Bancic was just behind him, but ahead of Sam Fitzpatrick, Oliver Ettridge and Tim Darracott. We lost Crofton Woodhatch and we lost Matt Emery as well. So the rain certainly added quite a lot of drama, and a delighted Will Chadwick can celebrate in style, can't he? Because that's an overdue win and a very well-deserved one.
Yeah, he was a championship contender a couple of seasons ago. Last season was not a strong point for him, but he's really come to life this season as well. And yeah, you enjoy do the donuts there, Will. Unfortunately, it's spray rather than smoke that you'll be producing with those donuts. But yeah, thoroughly deserved win here in the second race.
So Will Chadwick victorious, and we will have one or two of the drivers, I'm sure, making their way into the waiting room to talk to us. Will's not got there yet. Luke McEwen is there. Leo Gariboli is there, both of whom have scored very useful points. And I suspect, Paul, they'll all have quite a lot to say about those very wet conditions.
Yeah, well, while we're waiting for Will, let's speak to a couple of those drivers. Starting off with the driver who finished second in both races, Luke McEwen. Welcome along to the commentary booth, and talk us through that first race. It seemed that you maybe didn't quite, well, from our point of view, you didn't maybe quite have that edge of time over Sebastian in the first race until the rain came.
Yeah, at the start I was able to stay pretty close, maybe a bit too close because my front tyres just kind of gave up. You get a lot of dirty air around here, especially in the last sector, so I kind of just ended up dropping off, which was annoying, but I knew that the rain was coming, and I felt pretty good in like the transition zone. It was so tricky. Like basically, we were both just trying to hang on to the car. Went for the move under the bridge in the last lap and just kind of misjudged how early Seb was going to brake, and kind of just didn't want to overtake him in that way. So it kind of just had to stay behind for the rest of the lap. But yeah, their pace was decent.
And then race number 2, of course, starting 7th with that grid inversion. It looked to be quite chaotic in the early going there. Just talk us through the early stages of that second race, because you fair charged your way through into eventually second place.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think I probably made contact like 10 times in the first like 4 corners. Just everyone was trying to look for the same piece of track, obviously with the dry and the wet line. I've never like done a race in the rain yet, so it's my first one, so I was kind of didn't really know what to expect, like pace wise or how it was going to race. But I think it was really enjoyable, especially the first race. But unfortunately I didn't quite have the same start that kind of Will had, and Seb was in front as well, so I was a bit annoyed at that. But yeah, I made my way through the pack with some decent moves, and yeah, overall I can't be too unhappy with that.
Well, certainly 2 second steps of the podiums must be good going into the championship next time out at Thruxton. Thanks very much for joining us, Luke McEwen.
Thank you. All right.
That is Luke McEwen joining us. We will speak to race 2 race winner Will Chadwick next, because you had quite the eventful time out there in race 1, battling away with Pete Berryman all the way through, and then getting the launch in race number 2 to able to get into the lead and stay there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, race 1 was a bit frustrating. Obviously, I was like a thousandth of a second, 2,000ths of a second from Luke in qualifying, and then I did a really bad start, which was on me. So, you know, once you get into that area of 5/10 around this type of circuit, it's quite hard to actually make a move. I tried to be aggressive at the start to make it happen, but that wasn't gonna, you know, come. And then we had the rain, obviously, which I knew that, or I felt like I would have a good chance then of passing. It's just, yeah, it's quite hard to race side by side in these conditions, because once the person's on the rubber, they slide, they have no control. So you enter bang doors a little bit more than you usually would.
And yeah, this second race, I mean, you got a good launch, got away, and the fighting between it was Williams and also Garibaldi fighting at the front there just gave you those opportunities.
Yeah, I was able to get through to the lead pretty cleanly, which benefited me for sure, but I definitely felt like I had the most pace, and that's where I expect myself to be at, really, because, you know, I've done quite a lot of wet competitions now in this car, and I had to win the first wet PEC GB race, so I went and did that.
Well, congratulations, Will, on the race win. Well done, and we'll see you at Thruxton.
Yeah, thank you for the commentary and the production, guys, and thanks to Rafa Racing and the series organisers for putting this on.
There we go then. Will Chadwick, knowing his media obligations there. We'll speak to Leo Garibaldi next. Finished 3rd place here in this second race of the day. For a long time though, Leo, in the first race, you were in that 8th place in kind of no man's land, and then the rain came and you seemed to come alive.
Yeah, I was confident in the rain, really. I quite like it, really. I like these the new rain stuff. I was confident that if rain did hit in the first race, I was going to be able to make some positions. Ideally, I didn't want to, because I wanted to actually keep 8th, but it worked out in the second race anyway, since I was able to kind of get ahead of those people that I passed again. So, but yeah, I definitely made a lot of time with that. I was quite confident with the rain with that.
And then race number 2, I mean, you and David Williams, you were having a real ding-dong battle out there, weren't you, in the wet, and fighting it out and maybe getting a little bit pushed wide for the both of you at times.
It's tricky. In rain, it's always going to be quite door-to-door like that. If anyone's on your inside ever and you're on the outside line, you're always probably going to get driven into. So it's either for that person to try and back out a bit, which is not common, or they do back out and kind of avoid hitting into you, which did happen the second time round. So it's always going to happen like that, but I quite like it. It's quite a fun race like that, rather than trying to be quite smooth like that, I feel like.
And just very briefly, Thruxton next time out, how are you feeling for that?
I had no idea. I don't even know what it feels like in this car. I don't even know if it's... I can't really remember how it goes. So I don't even own the track yet, so let's see what happens.
Well, all I'll say is good luck to you. You'll have a lot of fun, that is for sure. I love Thruxton myself. But Leo Garibaldi from Apex Racing Academy, thank you very much, and well done on the podium. And then we will have a word with one of our AM drivers, of course, who has won AM in the second race, Christian Giruta. And Christian, my goodness, that was quite the eventful racing that was going on out there for you.
Yeah, it was a bit of a spicy one. I spent half of it, because I managed to get a bit of a gap at the start, I spent half of it just trying to manage. I didn't want the pros behind me, because it was just going to... I didn't want them to put me under pressure or risk getting hit from behind in the wet, 'cause it's so easy to lock a wheel and just punt someone. So it was kind of like trying to build a gap and then let a pro through and lose the gap, and build a gap and let a pro through and lose the gap. So yeah, there was a lot going on for sure.
We seem to have started the season, though, with you and Aidan pretty close together in terms of time and racing as well on track. Is that, you're thinking, going to be your main championship contender throughout the SAM Championship?
I mean, who knows? I think there's a few people that could get quicker as the season goes on. I'm definitely expecting Aidan to get quicker as the season goes on. I think he's a Porsche Esports pro on ACC, so he's probably not done as much on iRacing. So as he gets to grips with it, I'm expecting him to maybe become a bit quicker than me, if he's not already. So it's been handy to build a bit of a gap in the first couple of races. So I think in that one he had a bit of an incident in the second race and got caught out by the rain in the first race, which was really helpful. But Guy, I think, as well, is going to be quick. I've raced with him in GT4s before, and he was very quick in those. So just getting to grips with this car. I've not done a massive amount in the Cup car. I'm sure some of the others haven't either. So as the season goes on, I expect people to get faster for sure.
Well, congratulations on the AM win again. 2 AM wins out of 4 races. Not a bad way to start the season. Congratulations, Christian.
Thank you. I'll take it. And David, you are correct. It is the same Christian that did the catering racing about years ago.
I'm very pleased. My memory hasn't quite failed me. I'm intrigued to see you come and do something like this rather than, real world racing. What was the catalyst to bring you, if you like, from one side to the other?
Well, the racing budget went on a wedding and a new house and a few other things, and you never lose the bug, so I had to do something.
Makes sense.
To keep myself going. But I'd hope you'd remember with a surname like mine, because
it did rather stand out. Yes.
Yeah.
Good to see you again. Well done.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
So, a really good day of racing at Snetterton, and from a wet Snet to Thruxton in a couple of weekends' time, and that is going to be really interesting for sure, because just heard Leo Garibaldi saying, don't know much about the circuit, don't know what it's going to be like. Well, one thing we do know is it's fast, and it's a place that favours the brave. So the 9th of Feb, usual format, qualifying, and the 2 races from Thruxton. After that, Alton Park, Zandvoort, Croft, Donington, and Brands Hatch. But what are the takeaways, Paul, from Snetterton, would you say?
The wet weather, we need more mixed weather races.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing. I'll be happy with that. I think it's really shown that this championship is still wide open in both pro and am. It will just take even the smallest of mistakes to have a big effect on the championship going forward. So yeah, keep watching this series. It's going to be a thrill ride.
No question about it. 2 weeks' time, then, Thruxton will play host to the Porsche Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. We will see you there. But for now, for Paul Smith, from me, David Addison, thanks for your company and goodbye.